So, does anyone else wish they could just, you know, right, enough of that. Don't want to get copyrighted for that. But yes, if you couldn't tell what this video is, welcome back to the Smith Nerds, everyone. Today, we are talking about the 20-year anniversary of Ouran High School Host Club. And credit in the description will go to @myfriendash for that YouTube short, since she made that short. Believe it or not, that song is actually not called Kiss Kiss Fall in Love like the lyrics suggest it is. No, the name of the song is actually called Sakura Kiss. That's the name of the opening. So yes, it's been 20 years to the exact date that this anime premiered in Japan for the first time. April 5th, 2006, the show came out. Could you imagine if I get copyrighted for that? Oh, that would be so annoying. So, I never really planned on ever making a full-on video about Ouran High School Host Club, about the show specifically, but this seemed like the perfect time to celebrate the show's 20-year anniversary. So, let's talk about the show. Let's introduce you to the characters who are on the thumbnail of the video. We'll start on the left-hand side of the thumbnail. The girl right at the front is, of course, the show's main character, Haruhi Fujioka, who ends up in the host club because when she gets a place at Ouran Academy, which is a high school for the most wealthiest and elitist families in all of Japan, even though a lot of them actually travelled from somewhere else to Japan for this, just to go to Ouran Academy. Haruhi is very, very poor, but she still managed to get herself a place at Ouran Academy. Unfortunately for her, she ends up in the host club room and breaks a very expensive vase. So she's forced by the host club to basically be another host. Of course, what none of the other hosts realise to begin with is that Haruhi is actually a girl. They all think she's a boy because she's got short hair. But no, she's a girl. Despite what people will claim, despite what fans of this show will claim that Haruhi is something other than female, she isn't. All of your made-up identities that you're trying to force onto Haruhi doesn't change the fact that she's a girl, and doesn't change the fact that your made-up identity doesn't exist. And now let's introduce the other hosts. So the blonde guy standing right behind Haruhi in the thumbnail is my personal favourite character in the show, Tamaki. He is voiced by, this might upset a few of you. Tamaki, at least in English, because I've only watched this show in English. I've never watched it in the original Japanese. Tamaki Suo is voiced by Vic Mignogna. Did that name give you a few chills? I'm not going to talk overly about the situation because I have extensively talked about the Vic Mignogna situation on this channel already. I made 2 videos on it back in 2019, and then I made another 3 videos on it back in 2022. Vic Mignogna was completely blacklisted from the entire anime industry from early 2019 onwards, so over 7 years ago now. And the people that got him fired are other voice actors who also work in the same, who worked at the time for Funimation, now Crunchyroll. And the thing is, not a single thing those voice actors have accused him of has ever been proven. Not one thing. So that's why there were so many people, me included, that were so adamant to fight back on Vic's side against him being cancelled by such a snaky, by what we've now seen as such a snaky and intolerant industry, which is the English side of the anime industry. They can't handle any opinion that differs to their own. Everyone has to think the same in that industry, otherwise, like Vic, you will be attacked, ostracised, and possibly even kicked out and blacklisted. But that's as far as I'll go on that. So yeah, Tamaki is voiced by Vic Mignogna. Haruhi is voiced by Caitlin Glass. The guy with glasses standing behind Tamaki is Kyoya. He is voiced by J. Michael Tatum. He's probably the character I could pull off the easiest to cosplay, despite the fact I actually have cosplayed Tamaki before. I cosplayed him when he's the only character I've ever cosplayed at a convention so far, back at MCM Manchester Comic Con 2019. The two ginger-haired guys are the Hitachin twins of Hikaru and Kaoru. Hikaru is voiced by Todd Haberkorn, and Kaoru is voiced by Greg Eris, who you might know better as Sunahara from Clannad. And then the little guy right at the front, other blonde guy, little guy right at the front, is Honey Senpai. He is actually the oldest member of the host club, despite looking the youngest. And he also is he likes cute and sweet things. All right, that's his whole character dynamic. And apparently, now I've never read the manga for the show, but Ash has, and she's told me that apparently in the manga, Honey Senpai gets himself a freaking goth girlfriend. I mean, could you share that advice a little bit, please, Honey Senpai? How you pulled that off? And then the guy stood right at the back is Mori Senpai, who is Honey Senpai's cousin and is like his guardian at school. He's always around. Those two are always together, as Mori is always there to protect Honey Senpai. So the show is actually quite funny. I mean, you'd hope so. In this sort of a setting, but yes, this show has a couple of running gags throughout it. The most common one is Tamaki acting as if he's Haruhi's father, despite the fact he's the same age as her. He calls Haruhi his little girl a lot, which is actually really funny. Because he's like if you were to think in your head of like a very overprotective father of his daughter, that's what Tamaki acts like, despite the fact he's not related to Haruhi in any way. And Haruhi's dad, well, he's a very interesting character because he is a cross-dresser. Yes, Haruhi's dad is always wearing women's clothing. And he also wears makeup a lot. So, back in 2006, a very common word to describe those kinds of people was transvestite. And Ash said in the On High School Host Club video she made for her Shoujo Sunday series back in September, which will also be linked in the description if you want an even more of a deep dive into the show than what I'm going to do here. She said that if the show ever got a remake, which I really hope never happens, they'd have to remove some of the problematic and outdated elements of it. Which, of course, I would not want that. Because those so-called problematic elements make the show what it is. I mean, if the show was remade, depending on the type of people that were in charge of making it, they might end up making Haruhi's dad full on trans, which is not what he is in the main series. In the original series, that's not what he is. He's a man that cross dresses. That's it. So I always find it funny when like the new gen anime fan, so basically anyone who started watching anime from COVID onwards, saying that finding it like male characters cross-dressing, and they say it's weird, and they say this wasn't happening years ago, as if they were watching anime years ago. Well, actually, it was happening years ago, because as I just said, Haruhi's dad is a cross-dresser, and that was back in 2006. If you want me to go even further back than that, well, how about when Trunks had to pretend to be a princess in Dragon Ball GT, and had to dress up as a girl in order to get one of the Black Star Dragon Balls. That was back in 1996. That was 30 years ago. Male characters cross-dressing, whether it's part of their character trait or it's something they have to do once for something. Cross-dressing male characters have been a thing in anime for over 30 years. It is not a new thing. It is a very well-known thing within anime. Although one of my favourite lines involving Haruhi's dad is when her dad sees the host club on the supposed activities they get up to. He says, so this is the kind of degeneracy that goes on in the host club. And then Hikaru and Kaoru are behind him, and they both say together, hearing that from Haruhi's transvestite father is kind of ironic, don't you think? I find that line's quite funny. But probably my favourite scene in the whole show that involves Haruhi's dad, it actually is the very first time him and Tamaki meet. Because when her dad walks into the apartment, Tamaki is on top of Haruhi. And instead of saying anything to him, he walks over to the two of them, grabs Tamaki and just yeets him into the freaking wall. And that's basically the dynamic that happens between Haruhi's dad and Tamaki every time they see each other. It usually ends up with Tamaki getting his ass kicked by Haruhi's dad. And the reason I keep calling him Haruhi's dad is because I don't actually know what his name is. I can't remember if the show ever actually tells us what his name is. I can't remember if it does. So I'm just going to continue to call him Haruhi's dad. And one of the big misconceptions I see from people is that Tamaki had feelings for Haruhi before he found out she was a girl. No, that just is not true. Tamaki was interested in Haruhi before finding out she was a girl, but he didn't actually have romantic feelings for her until he found out that she was a girl. There's the key detail that people seem to miss for some reason. So according to Ash in the manga actually ends with Tamaki and Haruhi getting married, so the two of them do fall in love and tie the knot, which is nice. It would be cool to see that animated, but don't hold your breath. I mean, the only way the show would ever get a season 2 is if it got the Fruits Basket, Yusura Yatsuda, or Ranma 1/2 treatment, where it got a remake, where they remade the whole of season 1 and then started continuing the story onwards after season 1, which the original series didn't do. But if they did make a remake of the show, I just feel like they would, well, the English voice cast would probably be all the same except Tamaki. They'd almost definitely recast Tamaki, because there's no way in hell they'd allow Vic Mignogna to return as Tamaki, despite the fact I don't think anyone could pull off Tamaki's English voice. The way Tamaki acts and his expressions, I just don't think anyone else would be able to pull off Tamaki in English the way Vic Mignogna did. So I wouldn't want to see that. So if they did remake it, I'd only watch the Japanese version, which might be the exact same cast as the original series. Something else I find quite really funny about the show is not towards the end of the show, like maybe like the last 8 episodes or so, a brand new character is introduced called Kasanoda, and he's like part of the Yakuza, or his family is part of the Yakuza, which is, for those who don't know, is the Japanese version of the Mafia. So he is not very, a lot of people are scared of him because they know his family are part of the Yakuza, but he himself isn't. It's like pretty much harmless. He ends up walking on Haruhi changing, just like Tamaki did right at the start of the show, and he becomes smitten with her the way Tamaki did as well. But my favourite thing about him is actually what Hikaru and Kaoru call him. The two of them call him Bossa Nova, even though his name is Kasanoda. They always call him Bossa Nova, and I found that really funny because they keep doing it. No matter how many times he tells them what his actual name is, they just keep calling him that. And speaking of Hikaru and Kaoru, probably one of the best storylines for those two is when the two of them fall out at one point. Because the two of them literally do everything together. They're pretty much inseparable. So much the fact that the two of them actually sleep together. I'll let you do what you. I'll let you let your imagination run wild with that information. The two of them basically have a big falling out, and then the two of them dye their hair. Hikaru dyes his hair blue, and Kaoru dyes his hair pink. And then one day the two of them actually swap hair colours, and the only person that notices is Haruhi. For some reason, she can tell the two of them apart all the time. She can always tell them apart. Obviously, so can we, because just wait for the one of them to speak, and depending on whose voice comes out of said character's mouth, we know which one it is. And as much as Tamaki is my favourite character, one of the final episodes of the show, I'm pretty sure it's episode 24, we have a backstory episode to show how Tamaki and Kyoya first met. And Tamaki is so freaking annoying in that episode. It's the only episode where I don't like Tamaki very much. He's so annoying in that episode. But I like him in every other episode, it's just that one. And speaking of those two, that's another funny running gag throughout the show that continues. With Tamaki and Kyoya calling each other mommy and daddy, which is really funny. Probably the best instance of this is when Tamaki says, "Oh, mommy dear," and he says, "What is it now?" "Daddy." "Hey, yo, Kyoya, I'm watching you," saying it like that. And then the ending of the show, well, the anime, of course, the manga just continued on. Haruhi seems to be taken away by these girls for an all-girls school who have kept popping up throughout the series to trying to convince Haruhi to come to the Labelia Academy, which is an all-girls school, and the host club are doing whatever they want to stop Haruhi from doing this. So much so that all of them, except for Mori-senpai, dress in freaking drag to try and keep her there. Where she just starts laughing at them uncontrollably because of how ridiculous they're being. But while Haruhi is being taken away, the host, all the rest of the host club members tell Tamaki, "You're the only one who can save her. You're the only one who can stop this from happening." So Tamaki goes after Haruhi and finally gets a hold of her, showing that yes, Tamaki is indeed in love with Haruhi, and she, by the time the end of the show, she pretty much does feel the same way about him that he feels about her. And to round off the video, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Ouran High School Host Club, look what I've got. That's right, I have my own freaking plushie of Haruhi. I wish I had a Tamaki one as well, but I don't. This is also the only plushie I've ever bought not from a convention. Of course, I bought my Goku and Naruto plushies at MCM Manchester 2018 and 2019. I bought this one of Your Forger at Huddersfield Get Your Geek On last year. This plushie being the only one where I haven't bought it at a convention. Maybe I should get myself a Tamaki plushie as well sometime and put him next to Haruhi. So yeah, I've had this plushie for about like 7 years now. But yeah, that is going to do it for the celebration of 20 years since Ouran High School Host Club was released. Thank you everyone so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new. In the description, of course, will be Ash's channel and her video looking at Ouran High School Host Club that she did in September of last year. Just over 6 months ago. Which is almost double the length of this video, so if you want to have a deep dive into the series, go check that out. But until we meet again, I will see you in the next one.